What is happening, family? It is your man, CRB Jr. here, Courtney Robert Brown Jr., back at it again at Big Boss Filmworks, Motown Mafia podcast, here with my partner in crime and my brother, Lou. How you feeling, man?
Man, we back at it. We back at it.
It has been...
It's been one hell of a journey. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, family. So, obviously, you guys have noticed we haven't been on the air a little bit. I think the last thing we did get a chance to get out and get down to the Brewster reunion.
The Brewster reunion.
So that was really cool. Got a chance to see obviously Uncle Butch, a couple Detroit legends, KK. He's got some things coming up. Shout out to the big homie KK.
Yeah.
Saw 5-0's nephew Yasmin. In fact, he just reached out to me.
Okay.
And just all those guys and families, man, back from the project days.
Definitely.
Where it really all kind of got started. And we're going to do, obviously now that we're back to work, we're going to really get to unpacking some of that stuff. So, because those episodes on the projects did really well.
Yeah.
But we here at the Big Boss family, and also shout out to my brother down there in Florida, Eddie Jackson Jr., Real True Street Crimes, the whole Big Boss family.
Big up Eddie Baby.
Yeah, shout out to Eddie Baby and Eddie and the True Street Crime team. We have had quite a month, right?
Quite 2 months for me, but
yeah. 2 months, which has caused us to be off the air. So just to bring you guys kind of up to speed. First, we had the transition of a dear friend of the whole Big Boss family and the True Street Crime family and of all of us, in the clique and associated with the clique, a gentleman by the name of Craig Joseph Johnson. You guys who listen to Eddie on Real True Street Crimes have heard us tell some stories over the years. Have heard us speak of a gentleman we call him 250.
250, yep.
The Honorable 250. So Craig had been an integral part of my life and Eddie's life. And it's just been over 20 years.
Even mine,
over 20 years ago now.
I met about 15 years ago at the Negro League baseball thing at Comerica Park that you introduced me to way back when.
Yeah, 50 might have more Negro League apparel than me or Mr. Troy or the Negro League manufacturers or the good people at Comerica Park.
Yeah.
My beloved was never bashful about getting him an outfit for what we call promotional purposes, right?
Right.
But yeah, so sunrise was June 5th, 1964, and sunset was July 25th, 2022. Words don't kind of describe, the term is used brother from another mother.
That's right, yeah.
But in this case, that's exactly what he was.
That was the case.
And, Craig had come from a very privileged kind of family.
Mm-hmm.
It's a black family whose grandparents were like going to the University of Michigan and things like that. And in fact, his mom used to write him letters to go shop at Saks Fifth Avenue.
Wow.
I had never seen such in my life. I mean, the stories of the black elite that you only hear rumors about.
Right.
But it was true. But our paths crossed in high school. We immediately became great friends in high school. Then we went on to college together, went on to pledge fraternity, became alphas together. He got to become close friends with the family, which then he met my father. And even let me back it up a little bit. That whole era with Eddie and Tracy and Pep and Scott and all those guys. Shout out to all those guys too off Dexter, because those were some of 50's earliest introduction to that world, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. He went from a very sheltered young man to being immersed at the highest levels of organized crime.
The man was a capo.
he was a capo. He basically became like my father's stepson.
Yeah.
But it was just seeing the metamorphosis and how he was a chameleon, because despite of this completely private school background, he was just a likable, lovable kind of guy and a stand-up guy. And through my relationship with Eddie, and then him and Eddie grew their own relationship.
Yeah.
And he was just right there for this whole second part of the saga that is known as the Motown Mafia story.
You know it.
So when we meet, Pops has just went away to federal prison. And so by the time Pops gets out in 84, me and Craig are already cool. And so we talk about my internship into the streets, well, it was actually both of our internships, because back when we were in high school, when Eddie's old man came home right when we were like juniors or seniors in high school. And,
Right.
I never forget, his mother would be like, Eddie came by in that Mercedes-Benz 500 SEC, and how does a young man at 16 buy such a car? But yeah, so he got cool with Eddie then, and got exposed, and he saw that whole first run with Eddie's old man and Wakefield via what Pep and those guys were doing. Pep and Eddie Jr. hooked up and lit up the streets in 83 and 84.
Right on.
Then he was right there with me in 84 when my pop comes home with the thing with the Irish mob and all of that. He goes into, again, just a pillar of the whole story. When this Motown Mafia story comes to the medium-sized screen and big screen, and well, actually it's going to be at all the screens.
Yeah.
His character, just has to be there.
Oh, no question.
87, the summer in Highland Park, that crazy summer when Pops is sending me down to the Bahamas, and he's getting real entrenched with us in Highland Park and over at Eddie's building on Geneva. And looking back now, we were, as they say, making our bones or learning the ropes, right? We were going from we were going from boys to men.
Yep.
We were going from
Pups on the porch to big dogs.
From pups on the porch to big dogs, for real. And then he just continued to be more and more, entrenched with both of our families, with the Jackson family, with Eddie's family, with the Brown family. Then he's there for the Nigerian thing, and then by the time the Pakistani plug thing comes along, and we've skipped over like the first New York episode. I mean, it was just so much. He's the guy, in fact, when we tell the story about Big getting robbed, he was the wheelman while Big was getting robbed up there on 127th Street. And,
wow.
I don't know if I ever told you the story, though, talk about life altering. God rest his soul again. He was truly my brother family that we put to peace. But me and Big and 50 are on 106 in Columbus. Same Dominicans, Kid Cuba. Shout out to that Dominican crew at 106 in Manhattan. Big in town. Him and 50 is working French Road together, right?
Okay.
And Big is still following, trying to do the repeat magic again, how his father, of course, went to New York and ended up meeting the Gambino family.
Right.
And Big always had the belief that he was going to be able to duplicate.
To get that next, to make lightning strike twice.
Which he damn near did, but unfortunately, he didn't handle the that's a post you guys can go back. Big, why didn't you listen to the plug? But anyway, before that incident where we end up going up to 127th and meeting Pablo and Crazy and the big Dominicans and Colombians who were running it, the middleman that we had met, Kid Cuba and them, was serving Big when he would come to town. And we get the brick and Manhattan runs north and south at 107th Street, and we're going back to Brooklyn. So we didn't got the brick, and this is where education can be an asset. So 50's driving, but he takes a left turn, I guess that would be onto like 105th.
Okay.
And it's a one-way street. We got the brick on the back seat. He's driving. I'm in the passenger seat. Big and the brick are in the back seat. They flick us. NYC police. Yeah. This is, in this journey, family, we've been blessed. God looks out for children and fools, and that's true. And a lot of times we were smart and experienced, and Pops and Big Man had taught us a lot of lessons. But a lot of times, the reason that we're here now just doing podcasts and don't have a tragedy story is the man upstairs just showed us extreme grace and mercy. So in this case, they flick us. We got the brick on the back seat. And basically, we all are like, at the same time, we're on our way to Rikers Island. Simply, we're on our way to Rikers Island. This is about to be really fucked up, right? 50 went straight parochial private school. I've been shopping at Brooks Brothers and Saks since I was 4 years old. Cops pull us, what are you guys doing? This is a bad neighborhood. And they just go into the whole thing. This neighborhood's full of drugs, and what are you guys doing over here? Excuse me, officer, I am so lost. I'm visiting my friends at Columbia University, and they told us that this street ran to the school. I don't know what happened. This is a one-way street. Oh, my God, officer. I am so sorry. Could you please direct me to Columbia University? He laid it on. They bought it. They didn't. In fact, they never even.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Hook, line, and sinker didn't ask him for ID. I mean, literally, I think Big had put the brick inside like a Nike bag.
Okay.
I mean, if we go through any of the normal shit that young African-American men often go through when they have police interaction, everybody get out the car, let me get your ID, let me look around the car.
It's a wrap.
Wasn't no time to run. Wasn't no high-speed chase. Wasn't none of that shit. It would have just been...
I never heard this.
It would have just been, which one of you about to eat this brick? Because somebody got to eat this brick. 50 gave them the spiel, and they let us go. And, of course, just in classic 250, after the cops let us go, he just lays it on to make sure they don't. They're back in the police car. We're pulling off. He backs up to their car and says, one more time, officer. I take a right on to Central Park West, or I take a left to Central Park West. Which way do I get back to the school? Because I really don't want to keep getting lost. Boom. God is good.
God is good.
R.I.P. 250.
Rest in peace, 50.
And just so many missions. So him and Big, were running back and forth from Detroit to New York. He was Big's wheelman.
He was the wheel guy.
He was big, excellent driver. His family had driven nothing but BMWs. In fact, I always teased him. I was like, man, you guys been driving BMW. Y'all was driving BMWs when we was in the projects and thought BMW stood for black man working. You know what I mean? But he was a hell of a driver.
Oh.
He had driven nothing but Beamers his whole life. And that man behind the wheel of a car could do what he needed to do. And yeah, he was Big's wheelman for so much, and so many other of the family, Big Homie and a bunch of other people whose names we couldn't speak. He was integral in their success.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think about the one incident in the strip club where the stripper was like getting kind of skittish, and then you say the restaurant, the proprietor of
that's during the Pakistan. I was gonna say we could do a whole episode of 50 in strip clubs. He took full advantage of his friend's reputation and he was making good money himself. He wasn't making the money we was making, but he had access to, he didn't have to make the money we was making because he had the same access to it. And in fact, spent our money just as good as we could spend it, and often spent it quicker.
See.
But yeah, during that run, during that Pakistani plug run, often when we would be celebrating the fruits of our labor, we'd go to the strip club. And, Eddie's favorite line back then would be, the girls would, give 10, 12 dances in a row.
Right.
And then they'd stop, and Big would be like, well, why you stopping, mommy? And they were like, well, how many more dances should I go? And he'd be like, well, just keep dancing till you get tired. And they'd be like, well, how many dance songs is that? And he'd be like, I don't know how many songs you can dance before you get tired, but I assure you, we've got more money than you've got energy. Yeah. And wow, there was a time, family. There was a time. So often, though, whether it was Tigers, if you guys remember Detroit guys from back in the 90s, Tigers over on Woodward, the Black Orchid down on Livernois. What was up on 8 Mile was another one of our frequent spots of debauchery. With Kaylee, but that was later. We would start messing with hot tamales. But back then it was the Body Rock before it became Cheetahs.
Okay.
The Body Rock. These guys, the owners of the clubs knew that we were getting stupid money. And most of the girls knew we were getting stupid money. And if we had blew through $5,000-6,000 and everybody checked their pockets and all of a sudden the money was getting low, and we wouldn't want to break up the party to go, so we just tell the owner that we were about to go get some more money, and the owner would just tell the girls, well, you guys just keep doing whatever it is, and the bartenders would keep giving us bottles of champagne and be like, they'll bring back some more money. And one time, one bartender who was new, who didn't know, he's asked the owner, like, what are you doing? He's like, let me tell you what's about to happen. See the chubby one there? He's about to leave. He's going to be gone about 45 minutes. And he's going to come back with another $10,000 or $15,000. And those guys are going to clear up their tab, and then they're going to spend a few more thousand. And this is just kind of what they do. It's kind of tradition.
Wait. How many times out of a month were you guys doing
that? We were younger. I was a younger man, and it was different times. And back then I was getting high. So I'm going to blame it on that too. Okay. So it's 30 days in a month.
Enough said.
27 days.
Enough said.
27 days
Enough
easily.
Said. I already know.
Easily. So that's why I don't be passing judgment on these kids. Even though this make it rain, just throwing the money up in the air, not touching the girls, that was really never our thing. The young ladies, the sisters that were on our team, they took really good care of us. We took really good care of them, but it was not. We didn't just take our money and just throw it up in the air and walk away.
that ain't gonna happen.
That wasn't gonna happen. No. And during, then 50 in that, during that Pakistani run thing, man, shit, Big was paying him $500 a day just to drive. Just to drive. So, do the math. $500 a day, that's every 10 days. He's making $5,000. That's $15K a month. Not to mention everything else that you want comes along as a perk of the job, which made it difficult for my beloved friend to want to use his college degree. All respected. People be teasing him and be like, where you gonna get a job? He'd be like, I think I like the job I got. He was like, the realities of why. He was like, you go to college so you can get a good paying job.
That's right.
He's like, I got a really good paying job. So yeah, and he was, so he's with Big through that whole, Pakistani run, and at that point he got to meet, he really got to bond with Pops and got into the grown man shit. I mean, he had sat there at the hookup table with the field marshal, the professor, John the Baptist, R.I.P., Schoolyard George. He got a chance to really rub shoulders also with some of the heavy hitters in this town. And again, though, privileged background, some of Detroit's most prestigious and influential people called him a friend.
Absolutely.
You went to the service. I think you saw
Yeah.
the variety and spectrum of life that he touched. So, losing him again was a big hit to the whole Big Boss family and the real true street crime family.
He was that guy.
Just a pillage. So that set us back, and then we would be remiss not to give a shout out and salute to your grandma, Annie Stevens.
Annie B. Stevens. Yeah, she's born May 29th, 1922, and her out date was, July 28th. 8:24 in the morning. I was her caregiver for over 8 years. And, to focus on that time, I mean, for me, I learned a lot.
I mean, family, we have a lot of fun here on the station, and we talk a lot about the glory days and about, obviously, life in the hustle and life in the struggle. But often I think sometimes we can lose sight that the Brown family, the Jackson family, the Stevens families, we are just families. We are just people. And what you did for your grandmother the last 10 years, you need to be saluted. The sounds of the city.
Wow.
The sacrifice.
Definitely.
And just a hell of a story. I mean, it's fascinating when I was looking at some of the stuff you guys did and for her going away. Those pictures of her like military generals shaking her hands, and it reminded me so much like she was like the women out of that movie
Hidden Figures.
She was like one of those real African American women who were involved in this country's military defense at an exceptionally high level.
Yeah. And me being the techie that I am, I do believe the apple didn't far fall from the tree. My grandmother wrote the first logics to the first computers that were made. I mean, she had to wear white gloves. The computers was about maybe, I don't know, the size of your basement, maybe bigger. And she would she was a code writer way back in 1945.
Yeah, it completely. She was one of those hidden figures, kind of characters in American history.
Big time.
I mean, an African American woman, again, of just obviously extreme intellect and responsibility, because you don't get to do that for the government if you're a white man unless you are top of the game.
Definitely.
Least of all if you're an African American woman in the 50s. And given that kind of responsibility, that speaks volumes.
She originally was a victim of discrimination, and she lost that job. And she fought tooth and nail and got back up. One of the, I believe one of the directors there vouched for her, knew she was a good worker, and knew what she was capable of, and she got that job back. I mean, that's a script in the making. Annie B. Stevens' story.
Yeah, without question. And of course, as time would have it, and you guys will see in the coming soon, Making of the Mafia. It was her home where this whole thing began.
Yeah, Granny knew when I went to Wayne State, what my aspirations were for film and movies. I mean, but at first it was, Courtney coming through. I'm doing my graphic design business and my other little hustles, and we had side ventures going on, and we just come and break bread. But the birthplace of this thing, of Big Boss Filmworks, is truly her legacy.
Yeah. I mean, I'd come by the house, she'd be there doing her accounting work.
Yeah.
And we'd go in the den, and then it was that fateful day when I came in there and said, "Hey, Lou, let's make a movie." And you were like, "Okay." And, of course, that movie ended up turning into a book.
Yeah.
And then the book ended up turning into a documentary.
There you go.
And then the documentary ended up turning into a internet radio show.
Yes.
And then it turned into another book. And then it turned into a YouTube station.
A content creation
company. And obviously liaison working with, shout out to my man obviously over there at American Dope, Al Prophet, you know.
Big up, Al.
Big shout out to Al. Big shout out to Scott Bernstein.
That's right.
And now you see, I mean, you know, people, you look at BMF and you'll see Scott, and you'll look at American Dope, and people don't really realize. Sometimes people, you know, the commenters will be like, why y'all using Al Prophet's content? Or I saw this, and it's like people don't even realize
how synonymous
that we all began together.
That's right.
We all began together, so that it's just all love there. So,
yeah.
Needless to say, so then with putting Craig Joseph Johnson going home affairs and Miss Stevens going home affairs, we here just been dealing with real life stuff.
Big time.
Real life stuff. So, but we're back to it, and we are going to continue to create new great content in tribute to Craig Joseph Johnson and Annie Stevens.
Yeah, and in fact, what I'm going to do, just so you guys can get to know these two great people that we lost, I made 2 videos. I'm going to post both of these on Big Boss Filmworks because, I mean, they deserve to get their roses even in the afterlife.
No doubt, and they've just been so integral.
So integral. I mean, they were seriously both huge losses for me. Yeah. I mean, I saw how much of a part of Courtney and everybody related to Courtney, how big of a loss that was. And I mean, it really hit me because I became good friends with the guy. We shot a great deal of footage right there on Littlefield in 50's house.
Fact, the first content that we ever did when we kind of introduced the world to Eddie Jackson Jr.
Yeah, Eddie Jackson Jr.'s first videos. Well,
all that the hunt for Pap,
hunt
for Pap, the hunt for 5-0,
right there,
the YBI story, and all of that we shot right there at Craig's house.
In fact, we even got him. We started at one of your old residents,
the Boulevard. If you go back to the archives, maybe we can find some of that stuff.
Oh, I don't have to find. I got it. I will post it.
Yeah, I will post it. He was there. Some of that real early stuff. Eddie the Blue Rabbit and all those stories that he did over on the Boulevard.
Big time. Big time.
And again, you know, without the support and the stability of that house on LaSalle.
Yes. Yeah, this thing this thing doesn't happen.
This thing doesn't happen, you know.
No. We're still doing apparel or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Or saying, yeah, you know what, we should tell the world our story.
Yeah.
People want to know about Eddie Jackson. People don't know outside of Detroit, you know. And there was a time when, you know, this thing was just still a real Detroit. Everybody, you know, it was the worst kept secret in Detroit.
Yeah.
There was a time in the 70s and the early 80s that Eddie the Fat Man Jackson and his crew reigned supreme, and then the offspring just of that, whether it's Demetrius Holloway or my pops or what Butch and other people would do later on in the streets. But now the fact that it's synonymous with the city and that they've got their roses, both of those people have
big time.
Just a big part about it. So, one last time, shout out and R.I.P. to Craig Joseph Johnson. Shout out and R.I.P. to Annie Stevens.
Shout out, Granny.
Their memories and their legacies, we will keep going here at Big Boss Filmworks.
Big Boss loves you.
For sure.
Well, I can't remember to tell you the story. I was done. You know, now if you want something extra, go to Hollywood and let them add the extras for you.
So with that said, the gangster world and the hip hop community continue to become one
Yes, the convergence is
of it.
I mean, yeah.
So I don't know if you had a chance. I think it premiered last week, the Irv Gotti Murder Inc. Documentary.
Oh yeah.
Docudrama that's on BET.
Definitely, yeah.
Chronicling the rise and fall of Murder Inc., the record company of the late 90s,
Late 90s, early 2000s.
Early 2000, and for those who don't remember,
Ashanti,
Ja Rule.
Jay-Z was supposed to
be a part of that, actually.
Yeah, DMX.
Right. And, just the other side anecdote, that would have been prior to Murder Inc., Ja Rule did a little deal with Tommy Boy.
Okay.
And I think we've mentioned this story before, but I was dating a young lady by the name of Devin Robeson. Shout out to Devin out there. Really a good girl. Messed that one up. But anyway, she was working for Tommy Boy. She had just got through working. She was really trying to plug me in, and she saw we were getting some bread.
Okay.
This is again during this Pakistani thing, and I had opened up the shop up on 125th Street. And she had just left PMD, which was Parrish Making Dollars. This is right where EPMD, where Eric Sermons and Parrish Smith had kind of went to do their own separate things for a minute. Mm-hmm. And she started working for Parrish Smith, for PMD, Parrish Making Dollars, and then she had went over to Tommy Boy. And I never forget, she comes home and she's so excited about this new artist, Ja Rule, and she's talking about if somebody put some money behind this guy, what he could do, and yada, yada, yada. And I'm stuck on the bag, and I'm like, we getting stupid money. What the hell is a Jahu or Ja Rule or Ja Lu? Yeah, another one. I think I did a post on that, learning to live with regrets, right?
Definitely,
that was definitely one. But, they chronicle in that documentary. Check it out. Always, we are not haters. We are congratulators. It's a good piece of content that Irv Gotti and those guys did with the Murder Inc. story.
Yeah.
Because they were hot. They were like big. They were
they were on fire, man.
So now the thing is where it connects with the underworld or the street thing, the hustle thing, the life and the struggle. Mm-hmm. Irv Gotti and those guys are Queens, New York guys, right?
Right.
They linked up with a guy or became close friends with a guy by the name of Kenneth Supreme Mcgriff.
Okay, the big guy out now.
He's not out.
No, I'm saying that the stories.
The big story, right. So Supreme had went away in the 80s on a big heroin conspiracy. By the time he comes home, this hip-hop thing, but I think it's far back as Eric B. and Rakim.
No, that's 80s for sure.
They were giving Supreme shout-outs, right?
That was 80s for sure.
Yeah, he's been getting shout-outs in the streets and in hip-hop for a long time.
In fact, I do wonder if the world-famous Supreme team had anything to do with him, because that was a rap group, the world-famous Supreme team.
I remember them. I remember that.
Buffalo Girls Go Roundy Outside.
Right.
They did a lot of work with Malcolm McLaren. And what was it? Hey DJ, You know what I'm saying? That stuff. That was the world famous Supreme team.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
some
of my New York people can probably put us up. Which came first, them or can Mcgriff's hook up?
I think Mcgriff, because I think the Supreme team had already reached some real notoriety and fame for the bag they were moving, like in the mid '80s.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, yeah, and that's about 84, 85.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's a when Kenneth Mcgriff, after his first indictment, then later that crew, Fat Cat Nichols, and of course where it all becomes urban legend. Those who've seen Get Rich or Die Trying,
right,
the 50 Cent story. That is supposed to be roughly based, the character in Get Rich and Die Trying is roughly based on Kenneth Mcgriff.
Gotcha.
Supposedly, right?
Right.
So anyway, in real life, Irv Gotti and Supreme become friends. Mm-hmm. And this is the part of the game, again, those of you who followed the story know that when I started working for the old man, we were doing a lot of international business, and a lot of his connects had legitimate businesses, and I was kind of responsible for getting the money sometimes to different people who would put it into certain companies and then would allow the money to come back out the other end in either real estate properties or jewelry or more legitimate forms of income so that the money could be justified. The authorities call that money laundering.
Few of them do.
Right. When the feds get on Mcgriff the second time,
right,
they then also went after Murder Inc., the record company, and indicted Chris and Irv Gotti and I believe some other people in the Murder Inc. scenario and charged them with money laundering, accusing that they were taking monies from Kenneth Supreme street hustle, that Murder Inc. was being used as a money laundering funnel.
Okay.
Now, I don't believe that to be true, and in fact, they end up beating that case because what people don't know who ain't in that world, by that time, hip hop had began to be bigger than the dope game. Mm-hmm. Irv Gotti and those guys were making more money than Kenneth Supreme was making in the streets. I mean, they had like 20 number one hits or something. So it was really just the opposite. It was Irv Gotti and those guys taking legit money, maybe just giving it to their man who was still running around.
Right.
But of course, the feds came when you are dealing with a high-profile federal case. Those guys play for keeps. Our community is still a little bit slow on really what it means when
the conviction rate.
Conviction rate of the feds is still 97%. So it calls for the dismantling of Murder Inc., a long, expensive legal battle. I saw Irv Gotti was on Drink Champs, and he's talking about basically, he asked his lawyers, what is money laundering? Now, I was like, should have called me. I could have really helped you guys out. But we don't do a good job with transference of knowledge sometime in our community. Yeah. And his lawyers explained to him basically, what I said earlier, that money laundering is when you take illicit money and it goes into a legitimate business, and then that money is re-siphoned and used. It's called cleaning up the money. That's and right. He's like, well, I didn't do that. And the feds had offered him a really sweetheart deal. I think they offered Irv and his brother like 6 months, and they would have got to keep their record business
and
everything.
Label and everything.
Thing is, by admitting that they were laundering money and taking the cop, then that's admitting that Kenneth Supreme gave you dope money. They call that in the street dry snitching.
Yeah.
Basically. Because even though you're not testifying against your man, you're saying, yeah, it's true that my man was doing something wrong and I was involved with it. So he didn't do that. The feds end up still getting a conviction against Kenneth Supreme. Bunch of real nigga shit there with tapes about people getting shot and all kind of stuff. It got real convoluted. But it did cause for the dismantling of Murder Inc. And it never really recovered. But with that said, so you got they're doing a movie. Irv Gotti and his guys are doing a full movie on the Kenneth Supreme situation.
All right.
Right? You got Nas is doing something with Showtime.
Okay.
On the Kenneth Supreme team story, right? And you got a brother, Bimmy, who I believe is, I don't know if you've ever seen that doc, Hip Hop Undercover.
Yeah.
It's got
that's,
like Bimmy, Big U.
On Amazon Prime or something
it's
like
good.
that.
It's good. Again, check it out. We don't hate around here.
Or it's Netflix or Amazon Prime. One of the two.
Hulu, maybe.
Oh, it's Hulu.
I think I saw it on Hulu.
Okay.
But again, check it out if you guys are into this kind of stuff. Hip Hop Undercover. It goes into this brother, Bimmy, who ran around with the Supreme team, also a brother out of Queens. End up then getting involved with Run DMC early in their career. It's a lot going on there. Jam Master Jay and some,
Yeah.
It was a whole lot a whole lot going on there. Obviously, 50 Cent ends up supposedly, the people that shot him all those times was a part of that Supreme situation. There was a lot of nigga shit going on.
Yeah, man.
But with that said, so Nas is doing a doc.
Okay.
On Showtime, and then Bimmy supposedly also has another project coming out about Kenneth Supreme. So once again, family, I guess one day we'll get to the point where we're getting to the point where everybody loves the rappers who talk about being dope dealers. I guess maybe now the actual people who sold the dope
might get they shine.
Might actually get their shine. I never understood that how you can love the rapper who talks about hustling, but then you condemn the hustler. But I digress. on that. So I'm going to be very interested in that. I mean, I think it's just good for all of us. It's good for it's good for the culture.
Good for the culture.
For everybody to get an opportunity. And then I guess the part that's a little distressing to me, though, so that went down, 20 years ago? This whole Supreme, right? And now you fast forward now with this YSL indictment with Young Thug and Gunna and these young brothers down in Atlanta. And, I have not followed again, all caught up with the stuff we've been dealing with, but they tell me there's more indictments coming of some other prominent African-American young men involved in hip-hop who are at the top of the food chain then. And I just don't know what it will take for us to figure out that, A, the feds do not fuck around. I don't know who be gassing up these kids to think those people be busy. Mm-hmm. So just because they don't be knocking on your door don't mean they don't know what you're doing. And trust and believe when they find time to get around to you, they will get around to you.
And truthfully, it's the culture of the social media to throw up the guns and the dope and what do you call it, the money.
Which is basically just sealing your own fate.
Right, you're snitching on yourself. We did a post.
We did a post on that, but it's epidemic, and I don't know what those young men did or did not do. I just, as a member of the African American community, I wish them well. I hope that they were not involved.
Prayers to you.
But that they didn't. You look at the feds, how they came after Jay Prince. So this nexus, right? You look at how the feds came after Jay Prince. You look at the outcome of Suge Knight, and it's a great thing that Snoop has been able to buy a death row and kind of re-energize that, right?
Yeah.
You look at the feds coming after Murder Inc.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2022. If you're getting legitimate money, keeping it real is not continuing to partake in criminal activity when you don't need the money. Excuse me. And when your legitimate hustle is way more than whatever bullshit street hustle you think you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as all these docs are getting made, and hopefully, though, we're getting there's some lessons that are meant to be learned.
That's right.
From this stuff, so that each generation does not go through the wealth loss, the times and families destroyed by incarceration over what? In Kenneth Mcgriff's defense, and many he's from our era. The goal, he tried to produce a movie. Mcgriff did, right?
Yeah.
And he did want to get involved in the record industry. Yeah, unfortunately, he probably kept his hand in the bag a little bit longer than was prudent.
Yeah.
And did not separate itself at a certain point from the violence, and that people live, they make mistakes. When you got a friend like Irv Gotti who's making $100 million legitimate, we just got to get to the point, family. Why you still thinking about killing people? Whatever the beef is, if they ain't coming at you to hurt you, whatever nigga beef, who shot John or who ran off with the bag, as Royce the 5'9" got a line, be like, what Pookie said and what Pookie thought, shit. We can't be going out like that.
Right.
But when I was looking at this YSL thing and this thing, and Kevin Lyles from the 300 Record Group is trying to paint this picture of that these guys are just hip hop artists, that they're not really gangsters. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, you guys have made it so much harder for people to defend you when you get on social media with guns and money. And then one day it's all cute and fly, but then when the white folks is in your business, now you trying to say I ain't a gangster, but you done spent the last 10 years of your life creating content showing the world that you are a gangster.
And it don't exist in a vacuum. For every one of them murders that happen, it can't. From one crew to the next, they all see us as the same.
Oh yeah, the white folks.
I mean, seriously, it's like Dolph to this other one that just got killed like a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember his name, but when it comes to a case happening, I mean, it's just like this is what you do. Yeah, we
got to do better, and so again, what we're doing here. I think there's some other brothers out there who got some platforms who are speaking something reasonable. Shout out to those guys over at $1 Million Worth of Game.
Yeah, big ups.
Wallow and Gilly the Kid actually are speaking some real shit over there. Mm-hmm. And then it's some other platforms that are actually some guys who've been around the block for real and know that we just got to do better as a community. We got to do better as a community. But anyway, so I'm interested to see what these Kenneth Supreme projects will do, and the response that they get. Our thing is still about to happen.
I do wonder though, mm-hmm. all those projects, how close are they going to be released together? You know what I'm saying? Like with the on the saturation tip. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the two docs are gonna be. I think like the Nas Showtime thing, like it's coming this year.
Okay.
Or early in the year. The movie, we know it takes a minute to make a movie.
Maybe a couple of years or something.
Maybe a couple of years. I mean, they already got the director, the guy who directed The Joker.
Oh, Todd Phillips.
Todd Phillips is going to be directing the Irv Gotti thing. So
okay.
I mean, he's a pretty big time director.
I mean, yeah, he's Academy Award winner.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously they got a real budget there.
Mm-hmm.
So this thing with Supreme is going to be going on for a while, and I'm not going to get involved in their business. But I really hope that some of these monies that are being generated, because I assure you that between this movie and the two docs, it's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars generated between Showtime and these other platforms and studios, and that the families of the principal people get to participate in some of this.
Right on.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
that would be about right.
Would be about right. So, anyway, chime in, let us know. We're happy to be back.
Yeah, big time.
(1973). The Detroit Free Press's front page proclaims, "Dope kingpins get away with it." They had names like Jesse James, Pretty Ricky, the Black Greek, and Mr. Clean. 2 of the 12 men listed as Detroit's biggest heroin dealers were next-door neighbors, and in reality, they were the 2 largest heroin dealers in Detroit, dwarfing the other men on the list. Eddie the Fat Man Jackson, charismatic son of a pool hall owner, and his chief lieutenant, Courtney the Field Marshal Brown, a former city bus driver, had built an empire on a par with men like Nicky Barnes and Frank Lucas of New York. But theirs was a very different and in many ways more sophisticated operation than Barnes and Lucas's, based on family ties and finesse more than murder and mayhem. They truly were the Motown Mafia, and the saga of Eddie Jackson, Courtney Brown, and their families stretched from the 1960s and into the present day.
we will give you guys an update. There's a book I guess we need to do a review on too for those that follow this whole crime thing and want some insights from some OGs about this kind of thing. Heat 2?
I started it. Heat 2, 1998 to year 2000. It picks right up from where Heat left off. If you are fans of Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, you know this was their big film meeting. I mean, they made a pretty big deal of it, and it was a great heist movie. And actually, there's been about maybe 5 or 6 different movies that attempted to duplicate what they did in Heat.
Yeah, speaking of 50 Cent, Den of Thieves was pretty much just...
It was basically a Heat hybrid.
Yeah.
I mean, The Dark Knight, even Christopher Nolan said, I just wanted to do Heat with Batman and the Joker. And that's what it was. I started reading the book, and from what I mean, the words are jumping right off the page. If you get a chance, Michael Mann is one of the authors of the book, so you already know.
And give a little background on who Michael Mann is.
Oh yeah, Michael Mann, from Thief to Heat to the Ali. He did Ali.
Did he do Ali?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. No. Public Enemies. I mean, when it comes to the crime genre, Michael Mann is one of the best directors out there doing it.
Yeah, and that classic line from Robert De Niro in Heat, never be close enough to anything that you can't separate from within 60 seconds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds if you feel the
heat coming around the corner. Yeah.
And that's the kind of gangster talk that people don't be talking about.
No. I mean, those were criminals who were, and when you read it and you read the meticulous nature, and if you watch the movie, you already know how they would set up scores and like how they would.
Years in advance.
Right. Years in advance. And gosh, there was so much research. I can imagine that making the film about these kind of thieves had to have taken. It's a truly fascinating study. If you get a chance, check out Heat 2.
And it just reminded me, the whole dynamic reminded me of Pops and his clique so much, because they basically, that real rule, Pops and them basically was like, if I didn't do time with you, I can't do crime with you.
That's right. That was it.
That was it.
They let the one loose guy, if you saw the movie, I'm talking about Waingro. He was the loose cannon.
And it came back to haunt them that they let somebody in their world who had not done time with them.
He was the Achilles heel of the whole story, actually, from the beginning. So,
is he in Heat 2?
No, Waingro got killed. Waingro, Robert De Niro's
hits him at the end on his last run.
And he could have got away with it had he left Waingro.
But the rules of the code, his inter-gangster code demanded retribution.
Yes, and one really cool thing about Heat Part 2, you get everybody, because it goes back into 1988. You get what Detective Hanna, which was Al Pacino's character, what he was doing in 88. You got Robert De Niro's, Neil McCauley, and Chris, Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
He is basically the star of the show, but you get I haven't finished it yet, but I'm gonna do a full review once it's finished. Courtney's gonna check the book out too.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a read.
And we're gonna start doing you open, please give us some suggestions of some other old time stories. Again, all this attention that's been given to people from the life, from the struggle. Obviously, we're going to continue to chronicle all the players of significance here in Detroit. Again, we believe we got like the deepest bench in the country when it comes to this kind of content and genre. But coming soon, probably next pod, we're going to be talking about a guy I don't know if you guys are familiar with, and that is New York Freddie Myers.
Yeah.
This is a while ago. They covered him in Feds magazine, and shout out to the guys at Feds and DeMeo and Sister Una and Antoine and those guys, and obviously shout out to the big homie Kevin Childs and his whole family over there at Don Diva, because those guys paved the way for Well, all of this stuff.
All of this stuff.
All of this stuff.
They were trailblazers.
They were trailblazers before this thing became a thing, and a lot of those guys. Again, we want to just do our part. That if corporate America is going to start cherry picking and deciding which one of our urban stories get told and how they get told, that people who actually have lived it, who've seen the bitter, the sweet, the good, the bad, and the ugly, that we at least give it some type of context and give those kind of people a platform so that they can tell their story from their perspective, you know.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
So look for that. Look for we're going to be doing a review on the Freddie Myers situation, informing you guys about another legend that came out of the Big Apple. And we're just glad to be back. So we won't be taking another month vacation.
Yeah.
This was a different time for the whole Big Boss Again and True Crime family. I know Eddie Baby's now back down in Florida, so he'll be getting back to work too.
Yeah, big time.
We still got some big interviews coming up here with some of the homies, just putting it together. And some of your people, we're going to do some stuff talking about this incarceration problem. Because, I was just saying, I got a dear friend that's been locked up for like 30 years, right?
Right.
And the numbers I was just running about, if I give them $100 a month between commissary and phone calls, and you got 9 other people probably doing the same thing, looking out for them. So that's $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year. And he's been locked up for 30 years. So 12,000 times 30 years, that's in 10 years, that's what, $360,000. So when you be thinking about the kind of wealth that our community gets drained when our brothers and sisters catch these cases, some of them which are just not necessary. But just to implicate, but anyway, there's some brothers I know you got who are doing some positive things.
Yeah.
About
big up to Ken, the Street Monster, and my man Petty Pac. We will be having them on the show. Also, big up to King David, hip hop historian out of Detroit, DJ extraordinaire. There's a couple other cats out the city that we're gonna be hitting up. And you already know who you are, so get at me. We got the new season of Black Butch, the Black Dispatch, coming up.
Yup. And again, some other heavy hitters that got some other things going on some other situations, so that we are being respectful. I think you're going to be seeing some of them on Stars coming up. Some of them are related to the BMF story and all of the above. Again, it's all kind of connected if you know. For those who know, well, we know.
If you know, you know. to quote Pusha T.
Yeah.
Big up Pusha T.
Big shout out to Pusha T and all those boys in hip hop. We ain't mad at none of them. But it's good to be back to work, bro.
Good to be back.
So we got a lot. Telling you for real, the making of the mafia gonna be out. You guys gonna get the real backstory on how this thing is going down.
Patreon.
Again, we cannot divulge. There are some judges. We'll just put a little teaser out there. Some judges interested in not in prosecuting or a case, but in getting involved with our story.
Yes.
And we just throw that little teaser out there. But yeah, and we, shout out our boy out there, Al and Scott. Mm-hmm. We are going to get the band together and really let you guys and bring this story to a bigger life and give it more platform. And it's 40 years of history, man.
40 years.
And so much all this stuff that's going on now in pop culture, how our stories overlap.
Yeah, definitely.
And it just ain't a whole lot of us around who been there and saw it, Lou. So we got a responsibility. But yeah, here we are. We're back at it. Big Lou. Motown Mafia Podcast. Oh, make sure you guys are hitting that like, share, and subscribe button.
And smashing the notification
button. Let us know what's going on. And, the channel is growing again steadily. We are awed and thanked and blessed by the support you guys got. We got a lot of stuff coming. We're going to get the site up and going, so you guys can really just start going right to bigbossfilmworks.com, get some of the archival footage and a lot of stuff. And again, it's just exciting times for people in our space, Lou.
And big time, if you get a chance, get at us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. If the word Big Boss Filmworks is behind it, we're definitely on the social tip. So hit us up.
Hit us up, follow us, because sometimes some of the content, like I think some of the stuff from that hustle and grind, we didn't get it. We didn't post it on the channel.
Didn't post a lot of that,
but I think it's on the IG. Is it on IG?
Some is on IG, and a lot of, with the situations that we had respectively, I'll be posting a whole lot of stuff you didn't get to see from the summer, and a few pieces that I did while we were going through some things. The what was his name? Marzette. I did a piece.
Oh,
on
yeah,
Marzette.
Henry Marzette gotta go.
The real ones.
The real ones. Yeah, we got to get that out. We're gonna follow up on some more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of those OGs we really got to. If we didn't learn anything while they're here, we got to get these people's stories
and comments and everything. We're gonna be doing, and I'll put a post up. We'll be doing like lives. So you guys can chime in real time, and we can just talk, chop it up. We can take a look at the screen and see what you got to say. That'll be something coming to Facebook, our Facebook our Facebook page, Big Boss Filmworks. If you haven't liked it, go ahead over there now and like it.
And Mondays will be coming back again, chronicling what brothers and sisters are doing out here in these entrepreneurial streets. It ain't all the doom and gloom. Sometimes the mainstream media lets you know there are some brothers and sisters out here doing some remarkable things and some cutting edge things. So we definitely gonna continue to give them some shine and do some more networking. So Mondays will be coming back, get some inspiration, Black Man's Shark Tank, and all that.
And on that subject, if you are interested and you are a viewer and entrepreneur, business, we are offering sponsorships.
Yeah, we can give you a shout out. Luke can put together something really fly for you. Obviously our reach is growing by the day. So if you want to talk about getting your story out here, whether it's your story or what you're doing with your business, what you're doing entrepreneurial, what you're doing with some community activity, if you're doing something positive, give us a shout, bigbossfilmworks@yahoo.com or bigbossfilmworks@gmail.com, right?
Yeah, either. And
then also still for if they got some graphic or video kind of things,
hit me up.
How they get a hold of you?
Flyers Plus Graphics, or just give me a call, 313-459-9919, and we can put something together. After you take a look at the obituaries, the moving obituaries I'm about to post, you'll get a great idea of what I do.
Awesome. All right, family, it is your man. The Big Boss team is back together again. Motown Mafia Podcast. It's your man, CRB Jr., Big Boss Filmworks, doing what we do. Motown Mafia Podcast.
Big Lou the Great.
Big Lou the Great, making it happen. One last time, R.I.P. to Annie Stevens. R.I.P. to Craig Joseph Johnson.
R.I.P.
Gone but truly not forgotten. I'll let you, man.
"1973. The Detroit Free Press's front page proclaims, 'Dope kingpins get away with it.' They had names like Jesse James, Pretty Ricky, the Black Greek, and Mr. Clean. 2 of the 12 men listed as Detroit's biggest heroin dealers were next-door neighbors, and in reality, they were the 2 largest heroin dealers in Detroit, dwarfing the other men on the list. Eddie the Fat Man Jackson charismatic son of a pool hall owner, and his chief lieutenant, Courtney the Field Marshal Brown, a former city bus driver, had built an empire on a par with men like Nicky Barnes and Frank Lucas of New York. But theirs was a very different and in many ways more sophisticated operation than Barnes and Lucas's, based on family ties and finesse more than murder and mayhem. They truly were the Motown Mafia, and the saga of Eddie Jackson, Courtney Brown, and their families stretched from the 1960s and into the present day.